parties, members of the press, Liberians in Radio Land, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is common knowledge that the will of the people to choose their leaders through the conduct of free, fair, and transparent election is the foremost hallmark that distinguishes democracy from other systems of government. Fellow Liberians, it can be recalled that about a month ago, while announcing his candidates for the just ended Monserrado County by-elections, President George Weah openly declared that the Urids will not win any election under his watch as President of Liberia. Inasmuch as we took this statement from Mr. Weah seriously and sharply denounced its inherent malicious, slanderous, and divisive motives, we did not believe and still do not believe that it is law and gospel. That is, since no man, not even the president, is above the Constitution of Liberia, such that he may deprive a citizen or group of citizens of their constitutional rights to participate in elections, either as candidate or as voter. Neither does anyone have the power to alter the people's will at the polls. The nexus between the president's statement and the sluggish manner in which the National Elections Commission (NEC) conducted the just-ended Monserrado District 15 representative by-election is strong. It provides reasonable inference to the effect that Mr. Weah may be exerting all efforts to ensuring that his malicious and slanderous statement against Ms. Tilia Ure is effectuated by hook or crook, even if it will mean compromising the integrity of our electoral system. Fellow Liberians, as one of the outcomes of the 2017 ruling of the Supreme Court in the famous Liberty Party versus NEC case, the Supreme Court of Liberia mandated the NEC to clean up the voter registry before the conduct of any election in the country. We would like to bring to your attention that the discoveries made by our technicians just less than 2 days prior to the conduct of the recent Monserrado County by-elections prove that the NEC has not heeded to the ruling of the High Court, which undermined the credibility of the electoral process. We discovered, particularly in District 15, and the NEC expressly conceded to our discovery of the voters' registry being badly contaminated and prone to facilitating a fraudulent election. This fraudulent voter roll is specially designed and manipulated by Floor Sale, the main culprit, who has admitted, among other things, discovered that the voter registry used for the just-ended District 15 representative by-election was highly incoherent to the one used for the exhibition. As a precondition to our participation in the elections and to mitigate the catastrophe attending to said inconsistent voter registry, our parties entered an agreement with the NEC prior to the conduct of the elections that our observers would have been allowed to sit in the closest possible proximity to NEC's voter identification officers, VROs, responsible for identifying voters. This, we believe, would have afforded our observers the opportunity to scrutinize the identity of voters to make sure that only qualified people voted. Sadly, and for reasons only known to the NEC, this agreement was never adhered to. Besides using a voter roll inconsistent to the one earlier published and provided to our parties, we also recorded the following. 1. NEC abruptly changed well-trained pool staffers at the 11th hour to the elections. 2. NEC used serial pages marked index of voters' ID to identify voters instead of the FRR, which provides for official identity of a valid voter's name ID, and picture. This provided room for illegitimate people to vote. 3. A NEC staffer was caught using a totally different voter roll to identify voters at the Samuel T. Cone precinct, and that our observer who identified the fraudulent act was denied copy of a complaint form to report such fraudulent act, etc. 4. NEC officers use phones, devices at almost all polling centers to direct individuals to vote rather than the FRR as admitted by Mr. Floyd Sale and against the 2017 Supreme Court ruling. 5. Interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sale admitted that the initial report by Chairman Kokoya of 65 out of 94 polling centers contained votes from the quarantine centers, which initially placed Mr. Abu Kamara in the lead. Being cognizant of how devastating the consequences of circumventing this elementary concept of democracy will be, the crafters of the Constitution of our country enshrine in Article 1 that all power is inherent in the people. All free governments are instituted by the authority and for their benefit, and they have the right to alter and reform same when their safety and happiness so require. In order to ensure a democratic government which responds to the wishes of the governed, the people shall have the right to, at such period and in such manner as provided for under the Constitution, to cause their public servants to leave office and to fill vacancies by regular elections and appointment. Fellow Liberians, from the foregoing constitutional provision, it is clear that the source of stability in any democracy is the conduct of regular and free, fair, and transparent elections, where the will of the people to exercise this fundamental constitutional right without circumvention ceases to exist, anarchy reigns and democracy becomes nugatory. As Africa's oldest independent republic, the world will reasonably expect that Liberia would be a model of democracy for other countries, particularly on the African continent. A reasonable person will expect that our country is at a point where the conduct of a presidential election by the best practicable international standards should not pose a problem to smooth governance, least to say, or representative elections. It is noteworthy and sad, but not surprising, that after 172 years of independence, today we have assembled here not to celebrate the strength of our democracy, but to bemoan and fearlessly resist what is clearly a deliberate attempt by NEC and the government to circumvent the will of the people to choose a representative in District 15. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all knowledgeable of the fact that the credibility of elections is hinged on a number of factors. Key among those factors is a credible voter registry. From the facts and circumstances stated herein, it is irrefutable that the election in District number 15 falls short of meeting the bare minimum requirement to be deemed credible. That the Electoral Commission will even quarantine a few voting centers when our candidate was in the lead is telling. We want to inform the NEC and the government of Liberia that the collaborating political parties in the UP, LP, ANC, and ALP will do everything within our powers to ensure that the will of the people of District number 15 prevails. We do not rule out the possibility of using radical approaches as guaranteed by Article 1 of our Constitution. Let the word go forth to those seeking to circumvent the District number 15 election results that we are not taking this process lightly. We hope that NEC does the right thing by allowing the will of the people to prevail and give our candidate, Ms. Tidia Ure, a deserved victory. We take keen note of the ongoing investigation at NEC and will follow it to its logical and legal conclusion. The outcome of said process, that is, its fairness, will largely determine what our next course of action would be. Let's state clearly that the NEC, particularly Jerome Kohoya, Flor Sayer, and their conspirators will be responsible for any retrogression of the gains this country has made over the years. We urge the NEC to expedite the process as is reasonably expected and give Ms. Tidia Ure a victory. The collaborating political parties are calling for the immediate removal and subsequent investigation of Flor Sayer from the data processing center of the NEC, as he has now become an agent of instability in our country. The collaborating political parties will like to bring to the attention of the government, the Liberian people, and international partners to immediately stop the president's direct and indirect interference into these by-elections by one. President, we are allegedly calling the chairman and members of the Election Commission to his residence to circumvent the will of the people. 2, President, we are violation of the Code of Conduct by allowing the use of government vehicles for political rallies of the CDC candidates. And 3, President, we have participation in a march in areas of District 15 in contravention of NEC mandate, while partisans carry a casket with vandalized photos of our candidate, which we believe is in line with his statement he made on June 22nd, 2019, that Oyuri will not be elected while he's president. Let's, President, we have stopped this to avoid putting this country into crisis. We thank you for coming to our call once again and look forward to inviting you at our next event and update on the situation in District number 15. Thank you. And this statement is signed by the Liberty Party, the Unity Party, the All Liberian Party, and the Alternative National Congress. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I want to say thank you for coming. The statement represents the official position of the collaborating